Hey everybody, Carrie here. Okay, so we're going to start with our lecture today. Very cool. Okay, we're talking about the actor and we're going to talk about designers. I'm really excited. I'm going to start with actors and directors, okay? So something really important that I want you to write down is that the actor is the heart and soul of the theater, meaning that without actors, we don't have theater. Like, it's super cool when you have fancy lights and fancy costumes, but guess what? Without actors, we've got nothing. And despite the vulnerability of their positions, they're often awarded the gift of envy, adoration, right? Actors, especially in Hollywood, turn into celebrities really quickly. We have the Actors Equity Association. I want to talk a little bit about that. It's the union that protects all actors, make sure they get paid, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of cool that way, right? 3,000 people audition for open calls on Broadway for maybe 10 roles. Sometimes, again, especially when we think of Hollywood, we're like, man, the actor's life is amazing. It's also crummy. It's hard. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, yeah? So let's talk about the evolution in the West. So going back to Greece, right? Remember, plays were all the actors, men were all of the actors. They would train for 11 months, mostly in vocal skills, right? Do you guys remember how they had to, like, send their voice out to those giant amphitheaters? Go to Rome, slaves were the actors. Yeah, remember they all died from lions and stuff. Physical skills were primary, arenas were noisy, and physical skill like physical skills were primary because you wanted to stay alive. Yeah. Middle Ages, acting was outlawed. Remember, people are crazy. They still think it's going to make women pregnant or kill babies if they are pregnant, you know. Renaissance actors were finally respected. Like, for the first time, it was a legitimate profession, and women were finally able to act in 1660. So kind of a big deal, right? We talk about the East, right? Going back to Asia specifically, the Natra Sastra was the last of 5 basic guides organizing all aspects of Hindu life. And that was something that was performed yearly, kind of like the way we do Christmas Carol. Yeah. It defined the status of the actor, kind of like the caste system. Have we all heard of the caste system, right? In India, the untouchables all the way up to the tippity top, and you're born into your caste. Yeah. It was a gift from Brahma. Do you guys remember that? Theater was a gift from God. Yes. Most companies in the East were all male or all female, but they didn't mix gender. Does that make sense? It was very, very encouraged. And that's still very common today. So seeing gender bending was like no big deal, especially like when we're going to talk about Japanese theater later, like with kabuki theater and all that stuff. You'll see a lot of gender bending with men playing intricate female characteristics. It's fascinating to watch. And actually, in the East, audiences today are still separated. I wanted to tell you guys this story. Oh my God, I'm not even kidding. I was directing the Glass Menagerie in Dubai, and the audience were you're not allowed to sit next to someone of the opposite sex in the audience. So we had to have like a female side of the audience and a male side of the audience. It was the craziest thing. And even when I got on a plane to fly from Dubai to India, I was on a row of all women, and I thought it was the weirdest thing. And they didn't tell me till afterwards, oh, you're not allowed to sit by men. I was like, what the fudge? Very strange, yeah. Other evolutionary things in the East in terms of actors. Actors begin training at childhood, and it lasts for 7 years. The work is very symbolic. They tell the same stories over and over again with dance and music and abstract, right? And it's not always linear. I really need you guys to write that down. Eastern theater is not always linear. Yeah. Innovation is discouraged in the East. So the thing I like to explain that to is, like, for those of you who play an instrument, especially like in symphony or orchestra, if you were like reading the music and you were like, jazz was all about like, I'm gonna switch up the rhythm, but in like classical music, if you were switching up that rhythm, people would boo you off the stage, right? They hire you to play exactly what's written, and that's how it is in the East. They hire actors to play the roles exactly as they've been done before. They learn to do it right, as I say. Yeah, puppetry is a big part of that in the East. Yeah, as well. So let's talk about the modern actor. Oh, look, there's Meryl. Don't we all love Meryl? She's gorgeous. Anyway, what do you guys think of? I was going to ask you, like, what do you think when you think of actor? A lot of the things that people would say are like celebrity, famous, wealth. Some are wealthy, some are poor, uh, stuff like that. Yeah. Acting for film versus stage. Like, how is this different? Right, film, if I mess up, guess what? Take it again. On stage, it's like you go, 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 go for 2 hours. It's a lot more is riding on the actor. I feel like film is totally the medium for directors, and stage is the medium for actors, right? It's incredible. Acting is not about being someone different. It's finding the similarity in what is apparently different than finding myself in there. Meryl Streep. Oh my God, I love it. I need you to write this guy's name down. I call him Stanny. His name is Konstantin Stanislavski, and he is the greatest acting teacher of all time and created what we call the acting system. Now, before Stanny, people were doing vaudevillian stuff, over-the-top acting, cheesy shit. Like, it was all over the place, right? Along comes Stanny, and he's like, hang on, guys. I think acting can depict more of real life. I think acting can be more about the inner soul of what's going on with this character, and we can pull that out for the actor. We're going to go over some stuff. His theories are relaxation, concentration, imagination exercise, warm-ups, improv, and rehearsal experiments. And some of you are probably like, what is this? What do I have to do with anything? Meaning that, like, when you're relaxed, you're not thinking about grocery shopping or your grades or what's coming before and after something. You can allow yourself to think more deeply and genuinely about a character. Concentration, right? Staying concentrated on stage on your partner. What he means by like imagination exercises, we'll go over those in a minute. Improv, right, is trying out like different scenarios with your partner, staying up on your feet, and we're going to talk about some rehearsal experiments here in a minute. So objective. What do I want? Okay. Do you guys remember that thing we did in class where I was like, I'm going to throw Elizabeth a birthday party? It might have been Elizabeth. Can't remember. Kazan. I can't remember. Throwing her a surprise party. But first, I need to get her out of the room, right? I'm going to get her out of the room by bribing her. I'm going to get her out of the room by threatening her, right? Those are my tactics. What the maneuvers, the strategy to get her out of the room. The obstacle is what's in my way. What's stopping me? Well, it's Elizabeth being a little jack-o'-lantern about leaving the room. Does that make sense, you guys? Yeah. So this is a big part of his system. Analyzing your character, asking questions. What is my objective? What is keeping me from my objective? And what are the tactics I am using to get that objective? My interior monologue, it's inner monologue. I don't know why I wrote that. Is what is going on inside of my head, right? A lot of the time we say what we don't actually mean. Okay, right? So it's like, how are you doing versus how you doing, right? My inner monologue is, dang, you look fine. But what I'm actually saying is, how are you doing? Does that make sense? What is going on in my head while I'm talking? Yeah. Beats or bits. Stanislavski said bits, but with a Russian accent, it came out as beats to a bunch of American actors, and so that's what we call it now. And that's a beat or a bit is when an actor changes a tactic or changes their objective. How do they counter that shift, right? I'm trying to get Elizabeth out of the room. I tell her, oh my God, there's free cookies in the lobby. To bribe, to lie, to persuade to get out of the room. It didn't work. Oh, let me take a beat to figure out my next tactic. Does that make sense? Given circumstances. So these are like other tools to help us understand what's going on in the play. Given circumstances are what the author has given me, the actor. They told me I'm 25 years old, I'm a size whatever, and I play golf for a living. I don't know. That's in the play, right? What are the major relevant facts that influence your character's behavior? My age, usually my job, what do I want? That kind of stuff. I have 5 kids. You know, that stuff influences my decisions, right? The author has given them to me, okay? They're my given circumstances. The magic if. These are some of those experiments I was talking about with Stanislavski. It is the simplest thing. No one had thought of this before. It's like not a novel idea, but literally saying, if I, Carrie, was in the position of, I don't know, let's say Mickey Mouse, how would I feel about this situation where I can't find Minnie? If I, Carrie, had lost my Minnie, how would I feel? I'd feel sad. Yeah? Does that make sense? It's literally just putting yourself into the conditions of your character. Does that make sense? Your super objective is what is the ultimate goal of this character? What do I want most out of life? I think it was Justin the other day who's like, happiness? Like, right? Isn't that what everybody wants is happiness? It may not be. I'm thinking of like Iago or Macbeth, and you know what they want? They want ultimate power. That is their super objective, to control the world. Yeah? The through line of actions, right? What is the connection between all the behaviors of the character? How do I get from one logical step to the next? If my first objective for Elizabeth is to get her out of the room, my next is to convince Gundy to bake her a cake, and the next is to convince or to figure out who's buying what for the party, and then to figure out how she's going to come back in. My ultimate super objective, though, is to throw her a surprise party. I can't skip to that last objective, though, without following those initial steps. Does that make sense? That's what we mean by through line of action. Is there a logical progression of scenes? Endowment. Y'all, this stuff is important and powerful. Endowment is so important, okay? It's all about empowering objects. Project onto other actors imaginary qualities. So, for example, I always tell people that my collarbone is endowed, and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, Carrie? I mean, I used to be so heavy, guys. I used to be like almost 200 pounds, like back in the days of my youth. I was a fatty. And I so remember the day I felt my collarbone again. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but I lost a bunch of weight, felt my collarbone. My collarbone is endowed with all these wonderful positive memories of me choosing to be healthy. It's in an endowed object I keep on stage. Y'all know I'm Mormon. When I played Nora in Doll's House, I totally hid a Book of Mormon on stage so that anytime I wanted to like remember the things that held me back in life or the things that lied to me, I would hold on to that book because it like totally empowered that. Now, it doesn't have to be something personal. It can be something you endow. God, if there's an apple on stage that the props person gave you and you're supposed to, I don't know, that apple, you can endow that apple with certain properties to make it bring up emotions. And that's what this recall is, right? Using your five senses to reawaken physical and emotional memories of your own that can filter into the character's experience. Now, what I mean by that is kids are the best actors, right? Because they are the best at imagining out of their own circumstances. And if I only exist through my senses, right? The only reason I know that's a chair is because I can see it, I can touch it, whatever else, you know. If I can truly manipulate my senses, God, I can believe anything, right? If I can see a tree and I can smell the tree and I can feel the tree in my mind, that tree's fucking real. Yeah, those are the best actors, the ones who can manipulate or recall their senses, okay? Other additional Stanislavski tools are like external adjustments, things like wearing your character's clothes or wearing your character's shoes or changing things on the outside to help you get into the character. And the creative state is when you've come to a point where you believe so wholeheartedly that you are Superman or whoever you're playing that you all of a sudden just start speaking like him, talking like him, moving like him naturally, and you don't have to think about it. The creative state. Yeah. So these are some of the most famous acting teachers of all time: Strasberg, Adler, Meisner. I write down every single one of their names, okay? Because they're important people, and we're going to talk about each of them. This is a quote from Stella. Life beats down and crushes the soul, and art reminds you that you have one. God, I love her. She's super cool. So the Americans go study, a bunch of Americans go study with Stanny, and they're like, wow, the shit's cool. Let's bring it back to the States. And sure enough, they bring it back to the States. I'm actually going to do Strasberg last because he's my personal favorite and is a tough one to teach. Let's not do that. Thank you very much. Meisner. Oh, I don't like Meisner. The most respected, please. I don't believe that. He wanted actors to find a connection with each other instead of indulging in their own private emotions. So a lot of his work is repetitive. You'd sit across from someone and say, you're wearing blue. And then that person would say, I'm wearing blue. And you'd say it for a whole motherfucking semester until you believed it. And then you'd gouge out your eyes because this is awful. Where Meisner is pretty powerful, I feel like, is that it does get to a point that because you repeat it so much, it really forces you to listen every single time. Because some actors, guys, I was in My Fair Lady for a whole year. Do you know how many times I blacked out? Sometimes during the show, I'd be like, what line did he just say? I can't remember. I was thinking about the weather or the fact that I have a rock in my shoe. I don't know. I wasn't listening to my fellow partner on stage. Bad Carrie, bad Carrie. So Meisner was very good about forcing you to re-listen to the same stuff over and over again. Stella is lovely. She is all about making the character feel as much like you. So you're not pretending as much. You're playing you on stage, right? I like this encouraged paraphrasing so that you could understand the structure of the scene better. She was also really good at relationships. She would do exercises like, great, let's say we're doing Romeo and Juliet. I want you to do this scene as if you are a boss and an employee. I want you to do this scene as if you're Michael Scott and Dwight. I want you to do this scene as if you were best friends. I want you to do this scene as it, you know what I mean? And it would just bring really cool stuff out of the actors. It's like a lovely, lovely, lovely thing. And she was always training actors to separate themselves from their characters, in that she wanted to keep you emotionally safe. And we're going to talk about with this dude, Lee Strasberg. He is my favorite acting teacher. And he gets a bad rap because crazies have taken his work a little too far. He is the most famous. He developed what we call the method, and it is the most American because he uses emotional memory. Now, what we mean by that is, let's say Carrie, am playing, let's say I'm playing Juliet. Let's just make it easy on myself. And I see Mercutio die. I hear that my brother has died. Listen, Carrie, all my brothers are alive. I can't really connect to that. Can I connect to a time, though, where someone who was close to me died? Yeah, I can. My nephew Carson passed away a couple years ago. That was like the saddest day of my life. He died right in front of me. I was doing CPR on him, and he died of SIDS. And at Strasberg, what he would do is he'd probably have me go back to that time in my life and do what's called emotional recall, where he'd say, what was the room like that day, Carrie? Said, I remember the carpet was like beige. I remember I'm in my parents' house. The lights are above me. This was the smell. Carson was blue. I remember how light he was. He's only 4 months old. I remember feeling the air going into him, and I remember talking on the phone with like the medical team that was coming, and being like, no, I know how to do CPR, but he's blue. He's blue. I remember Candace just bawling next to me. And he'd have me like replay that over in my head. God, it's like making me super sad and emotional right now, just like talking about it, right? And then, so what would happen is he'd be like, great, now endow that feeling onto Mercutio. So if I'm playing Juliet and I hear the nurse say, Mercutio is dead and Romeo banished, I can recall, not necessarily seeing Carson or anything, but that I've endowed that memory, I've endowed that feeling, and I can yank that back when I need to on stage. Does that make sense, you guys? So Strasberg's actors have been accused of displaying emotionalism and of violating a core of privacy with each performer. I said dangerous. Why? Look, here's the thing. All of your favorite actors are Strasberg actors. Meryl Streep, Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, Daniel Day-Lewis, all of them are method actors, as we call them. They're the best actors in the world. Dangerous, why? Why might this be dangerous? You think recalling your saddest memories isn't like messed up? Yeah, it's a little fucked up. It totally is. And what I like encourage people to do is like take care of yourself. If you're getting too close, like separate yourself. But if you are mentally healthy, I actually find it incredibly cathartic to work through my own shit through another character. And I brought up Marilyn Monroe because she is one of the more famous ones who went a little crazy, as did Heath Ledger, right? Some of them took him to a little extreme. I want to bring up internal versus external acting. So what I just talked about was internal acting. If I can find the inner life of the character, I will cry. I will cry. If I can find a way to be sad or angry or whatever, I will want to throw a cup. I will want to throw this chair. External acting, or what we call outward in acting, and I want you guys to write this down and understand the difference. Outward in acting is, if I throw this cup or I throw this chair, then I will feel angry. If I start to shorten my breath, and I start to go through the physical things that happen when I cry, I will actually get sad. Sadness will happen after I do the physical thing. Does that make sense? So one is let me find the inner life, and then the physical will manifest itself, and one is do all the physical and then I will feel it. I'll be honest, I use both. It depends. If like it's not coming and I'm like, wow, I'm not crying and I'm supposed to be crying, I'll fetching fake it until I feel it, you know? It depends. Everybody's different. So every modern actor works differently, okay? And we're always trying to make brilliant discoveries in rehearsals. What I mean by that is it's more than just taking notes. It's more than just memorizing lines, analyzing the character, experimenting. I'd say experimenting is the biggest thing. A million people have played Hamlet. What the fuck am I going to bring to this character? Does that make sense? What is something new I can bring to this show? The director. I would love to show you all this video. We're not going to watch it because I don't know how to show it to you while I'm filming. But we're going to watch it when you guys come back. It's Julie Taymor. If you want to watch it, it's her talking about her flop, Spider-Man, on Broadway, and how she had to pick up the pieces, and she doesn't regret a bit of it. And she lost like, oh, I don't know how many millions of dollars working on that show. But she talks about directors, their job is to take risks. Research, consultation, envisioning the show, and to take risks. No one is more directly involved in every aspect of the production. Y'all, that's why I became a director. Okay, we do script analysis, we do all the research, we do brainstorming sessions. We start our job months before any actors are hired, before designers are hired. Our jobs are the hardest. Concept. What the fetch is a concept? When I say my concept for Romeo and Juliet is two children who don't want to grow up in their parents' world, right? That's mine. Yeah. What do I want to say about this show? What is my version of this show? What is important to me about this story? I want to bring up Richard Wagner, write his name down, and write down this giant word that starts with a G. Did y'all see this? It's Gesamtkunstwerk. I love that word. It means like the entirety. So before Wagner, you had a costume designer, a lighting designer, actors, directors, blah, 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 all of which were doing their own individual assignments. No one was working together to make a singular story with a singular audience or idea. And Wagner was like, hang on a second. One person should be in charge making all these big decisions, telling you all what kind of costumes I want, what kind of set I want, what the actor should be doing. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, in other words. And thus the director was born. Sax Meiningen. Look at that picture. God, he looks scary. A lot credit the Duke as the first director because he was an opera director, and what he mastered was coordinating these giant group scenes, okay, where you'd have 50 people on stage and he would coordinate these beautiful dance numbers. Before him, the player would be like, just kind of figure it out. You're supposed to be mad. And he was like, oh, hell no. Move here, say it like this. He really started to tell actors exactly what to do. He was the first one to do it, yeah? They included also place-specific costume, scenery, and props, the abolishment of the star system, aka no more, we're putting on Romeo and Juliet starring Judi Dench. It was like, no, 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 no. I don't care about the star. I care about the story. Yeah. He finally started to rehearse shows for a longer period of time. Now, beforehand, people rehearsed for like a week, 3 days. He was like, let's rehearse for 3 weeks. That was a big fetching deal, guys. And again, a unified production concept grounded in research and analysis. So in the modern director, we have two types, and I need you guys to write these down and to understand the difference. And if you don't, please come talk to me in class. We have a traditional director and a conceptual director. We're like, what are you talking about? A traditional director is someone who serves the script and the playwright and kind of produces literally a very traditional telling of a story, doing Romeo and Juliet in like Renaissance times with period appropriate costumes and yada, yada, yada. Whereas a conceptual director takes the script and fucks with it. I would say Love Song was very conceptual. They took those words and were like, I want to add movement. I want to add leaves to the stage. I want to add projections. I want to add a bunch of weird music. Yeah, and they totally changed a lot of that story and meaning. I bring up Baz and Zeffirelli, right? Have you guys seen these two versions of Romeo and Juliet, right? which one is a traditional director and which one is conceptual. I hope you all said the one on the left is traditional, right? Traditional Romeo and Juliet gob. And on the right, we've got Baz, who's like, I'm setting it in Verona Beach in Florida, right? And in modern, and they're going to be two gangs, and they're going to have guns instead of swords. Totally conceptual. Is it still the same story? Sure. But their concept is on top of it. It's showcasing a different light. Basically, again, a concept is, what is my story? What's my interpretation? What is it that I want to tell my certain side of the story? Does that make sense? I was going to talk a little bit about writer directors and actor directors. There's a lot out there, people who direct themselves, or people like Lin-Manuel Miranda. Oh, well, he doesn't direct his own stuff. I lied. People who write something and then direct it, that kind of thing. Yeah, the directing process, okay? So blocking, organization, coaching, atmosphere, all of those things are part of a directing process. Yeah? Oh my God, we're done. In summary, the actor must bring talent, charisma, and strong training to the process. You don't have to read any of that. Some directors are traditional and others are conceptual. Wow, I talked so fast. Look at the guys. 26 minutes. Thebomb.com. All right, y'all. I'll see ya when I get back. Watch Fences this weekend, okay? Colton out. Keep it real.